BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Black Box Ned 88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. All right, and welcome to our discussion for the day. And I would like to just drop a couple quick announcements before we begin. The first thing I would like to say is a big thank you to everybody who listened to our recent uploads on Richard Hoffman and his connections to the Zodiac killer mystery. And the next thing that I would say is that we will be doing some future things about serial killers on this channel over the weekend. And we will begin our book discussion on The Myth of the Zodiac Killer by Thomas Henry Horn next week. That'll be coming out in the early parts of next week. So if you haven't already subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so you can follow along with all of these things. And with today's upload, this is a subject that I had wanted to talk about for a while. It's just as I said I would get to some of your requested topics. We went through the Robert Linkletter series and the Richard Hoffman series, which were requested by people just leaving their ideas in the comment section. But today we're going to be talking about David Gold and his theories about the Zodiac Killer. And I have to say that this is a big one. I had heard a couple videos from David Gold on YouTube in the past, and I have to tell you that I put this in the category of, all right, I'm watching this video, then I'm like, wait a second, this guy's either trolling, completely crazy, or he is just saying things that are so far out, I can't even begin to evaluate them. So I didn't think much about it, and I just put it, on in a different place for a while, and then I found a video that he had done recently talking about his Zodiac killer suspect, Frank Morris, and I decided to listen to what he had to say, and the only reason why I'm talking about this is because not only does he make videos about this subject, he has also published a book called My Dance with the Zodiac Killer, talking about his theories. And if you look at My Dance with the Zodiac Killer, you will see that it's not only a Zodiac Killer mystery. He talks about an individual named Frank Morris, whose name didn't mean anything to me at the time. But, if you look at the cover of the book, you will see that he also ties into some things about D.B. Cooper, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders from 1946, as well as the thing that Frank Morris is perhaps most famously attributed to, the escape from Alcatraz. And what we can say about this is that David Gold, whose real name is David Kuchar, David Gold was the name that he used as a professional wrestler for a time, and we should say that his doctorate, you'll see Dr. David Kuchar also written, is in chiropractic sciences. He's a chiropractor, DC. But about all of those, about some different things other than that, that's just one of the reasons why you'll see the name David Gold written on the book to get to the heart of the issue. If you're going to be talking about this, Frank Morris is a name that didn't ring any bells with me. I didn't recognize it, but yes, he is someone who was involved with the famous escape from Alcatraz. And David Gold says that he knows this guy personally. He grew up with him. He interacted with him many times. And I would first like to say that David Gold has about 100 videos on YouTube talking about his theories about the Zodiac Killer, but not all of his videos are Zodiac related. I was watching as many as I could. However, perhaps I did not get to all of them, so maybe we can do a future upload or update or of some kind, but I would like to invite you to check out his channel. So the heart and soul of his claims about the Zodiac Killer are that there's this individual named Frank Morris, as well as two people who were with him known as the Anglin brothers, or that's their names, we should say, a little bit more than just known as. And they were involved with the escape from Alcatraz, and then they made their way to Florida in the Tampa Bay region, more or less the Tampa Bay area, and then to Mexico, and they were just going around the country, if not the world, murdering people. I mean, that is something that I found quite surprising, that David Gold was saying that these individuals murdered thousands of people. He doesn't even say, dozens or hundreds. He says they murdered thousands of people, so that's a very, very large claim. If we're going to be talking about some of these things, I would definitely notice that there appear to be a few inconsistencies in David Gold's presentation, because if you look at the cover of the book, My Dance with the Zodiac Killer, and looking at the Phantom Killer, who was the perpetrator of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders in 1946, you'll notice that perpetrator wore a mask, and there are undeniable similarities between the Phantom Killer and the Zodiac Killer. Big shout out to YouTube user BenDC4L, who introduced me to the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, and this was something that we talked a lot about in 2019, the early parts of 2019, that is. So the first thing that I noticed was some people were speculating on the internet, is it possible that the individual who committed the Texarkana Moonlight murders was the father of the Zodiac killer or a relative of the Zodiac killer. I saw very few people actually trying to say that this is all done by the same person or that it's all orchestrated by the same person. But the nutshell version of the Moonlight murders is that there was a string of murders that happened in the winter and spring of 1946 in Texarkana, and it's been attributed to someone who has been known as the Phantom Killer, and they have their own suspects, the same way they have like prime suspects in any mysteries, like a Yule Swinney, Duty Tennyson, and one that I did not get around to talking about last year, a German POW who escaped. There are numerous suspects in the Phantom Killer mystery. Well, you have a hooded serial killer targeting lovers' lanes, murdering 5 people, and deviating from the pattern on the 5th murder. But a big difference between the Zodiac Killer and the Texarkana Moonlight murders from 1946 is that when you have the Moonlight murders, if I recall correctly, the final deviation that we were just mentioning, the Phantom Killer targeted a husband and wife in their house. But I mean, it is deviating from the pattern all the same, not targeting a lover's lane, not targeting 2 couples by a car, which we can say about the first incidents in the Zodiac Killer mystery. It's also quite similar to that: Lake Herman Road, Blue Rock Springs, and Lake Berryessa. Then the Zodiac Killer deviates and murders Paul Stein in October of 1969, and the Phantom Killer would deviate and attack the final 2 victims in the spring of 1946. So something to note about that is the Moonlight murders occurred in the winter and spring of 1946. That's February, I believe it begins, and then May it ends. I'm a little bit hazy on those details. It really has been a while, but what I can say about it is that the winter and spring of 1946, all of the Zodiac Killer murders occurred in the fall and the summer, beginning with Lake Herman Road, December 20th, just prior to the winter solstice, still in the season of fall. And then you have, of course, July 4th, and then September 27th and October 11th. 3 of the confirmed canonical crimes in the Zodiac Killer mystery occurred in the season of fall, but all of them are occurring in the seasons of fall and summer. I've never really heard anybody else talk about that too much, but somebody did recommend someone to me who is going down a similar pathway. So, I mean, it's almost the only thing that I think would be beneficial to that to say that the Phantom Killer and the Zodiac Killer are the same person, or that it's the same group of individuals orchestrating this, is that it's almost like completing the circle. You'll notice that there is the zodiac symbol divided into 4 segments, and that it's like it is now complete, committing murders in the winter, the spring, the summer, and the fall for the 4 seasons. But something to add to that is that another one of my own original observations is that either the Zodiac Killer studied the Texarkana Moonlight murders very closely, or just it's the exact same psychological pattern going on. And the other thing I've said about that is it is nothing in between. Either this individual really studied the case, or they just have the same psychology. They have sort of similar experiences in their childhood and so on, and it is nothing in between, because undeniable similarities. You have a perpetrator who is wearing the hood, attacking lovers' lanes, deviating on the final crime, and 5 victims in each set of murders, each set of a serial killing spree in a very short, condensed amount of time. Another difference, though, is the Zodiac Killer murders begin on December 20th of 1968 and conclude on October 11th of 1969. And with the Moonlight murders, as we said, it's only from February to May of 1946. So that's a much shorter crime spree that was committed by the Phantom Killer, whoever's wearing that mask and such. So to go down this particular pathway, I would say that it would be rather difficult to convince me that it was the same person, but what I did notice was that Frank Morris was born in 1926, I believe, and then, of course, you look at the Moonlight murders happening in 1946, and he would have, his birthday is in the fall, so he would have been 19 years old at the time of the Moonlight murders, and then if we are going to be going ahead many more years, let's see, 1926 to 1966, the murder of Sherry Jo Bates, he would have been 40 years old, and then from 1966 to 69, he would have been just 43, like in his early 40s, thereabouts, if he had been born in 1926 around the age of 43. But what I can say is that it doesn't sound to be 100% inhumanly possible, but the big reason is just, I mean, I think you need a little bit more than a little bit more connecting evidence just to say that, okay, maybe this person has the same type of age range. But and I don't really mean to get bogged down too much only on the Moonlight murders. It's just something of fascination that we have talked about a little bit on this channel. And if the last thing that I would say about the Texarkana Moonlight murders is, in the past, I absolutely rejected that Yul Swinney, their prime suspect, was the Phantom Killer. I absolutely rejected that Duty Tennyson, the secondary prime suspect, was the Phantom Killer, because Duty Tennyson was a prankster. He was someone who just left riddles for the police to solve. I was like, this guy is just messing with people. He confessed to the murders, but he's just trolling. Yul Swinney as well. He had a lousy wife who revealed some secret information that was damning him, but it turned out that she could have learned that from the detectives, and from her own attorney had provided it with her. Allegedly. These are all unsolved cases, and these are the way people are learning about it. And if you would like to hear more about the Texarkana Moonlight murders, I highly recommend two individuals named John Tennyson and Jeremy Kennington. They are some very big researchers in that field, and they have an enormous amount of explanations about all the things, but I did have somewhat of a reversal about H.B. Tennyson, also known as Duty Tennyson, and I began to think, well, maybe if I had to choose between any of the two prime suspects, I would go with Duty Tennyson, but I said I wasn't going to get bogged down on that one, because we're going to be talking more about the Zodiac Killer, Frank Morris, and the David Gold theory. The David Gold theory expands in a couple different directions. And it's not only that this person was responsible for these numerous events, the escape from Alcatraz, D.B. Cooper, and the Texarkana Moonlight murders, as well as the Zodiac Killer. It's that there is something going on where you have this guy named Frank Morris. He gets out of Alcatraz, and he's with two people named the Anglin brothers. They make their way to Florida, and David Gold claims that he knew these people growing up, that he interacted with them multiple times. They tried to murder him on multiple occasions. But when people always ask about this in the comment section, hey, what exactly happened when you're talking about that? Hey, what was it? How exactly did you meet this guy, Frank Morris? How exactly did all of this come together? He just simply says, hey, you got to watch all my videos. And everything is only shared in segments. And on the one hand, they could be very big questions. And on the other hand, it's also just putting things out in very small snippets. It's a little bit more difficult to gauge what someone is saying. And I would like to be very clear right now. I'm going to take it off the table that anybody is lying, that anybody is fabricating the stories, that anybody is making stuff up, because I think that there's such a better way to evaluate this type of information. Number one, think about everything that we said about the Phantom Killer and the Moonlight murders. Well, an inconsistency that I began to notice in David Gold's presentation is he says that the Zodiac Killer wore that hood right at Lake Berryessa with the Zodiac symbol on the chest. Number one, it wasn't Frank Morris who wore that. It was one of the Anglin brothers. We're dealing with a group murder theory, just putting that out there. And the second thing to say is that he says that he got the idea for the Zodiac Killer hood from a Halloween costume that he witnessed from somebody wearing in the early 1960s. A friend of David Gold was wearing a Halloween costume that was quite similar to the Zodiac Killer hood, and that was the inspiration for it. But I'm like, no, wait a second. I mean, if you have somebody committing these murders in 1946 wearing a hood, wouldn't that be a bigger inspiration? Now let's get to another point. As I said, there are many things to go into with the David Gold theory. And if anybody would like to read his book, it's called My Dance with the Zodiac Killer, available on Amazon.com. There are some other things that happen here involving images, comic books, and David Gold really gets into how the symbols could have particular meanings. Number one, that he supports a possible solution to the Z13 cipher, which has 13 symbols in the name, and that means connect the dots. Connect the dots. And then what that means is that on the Halloween card, there's a very particular Zodiac Killer symbol. And with that one, you can see that it almost looks like it's a couple different letters mashed together, and there's some different dots on it. And if you actually go to Google, you can find that this comes from the Red Ryder comics, or at the very least, it was used by Red Ryder. And if the solution is connect the dots to the Z13, David Gold has a video where he can show how what you're supposed to do is to use Morse code. And I'm like, wait, really? We're going down the Morse code pathway again? No, Morse code, because his suspect is named Frank Morris. This is just his way of doing things. And you draw some lines, and then you can reveal that there is a solution to that symbol found on the Halloween card that reveals Frank Lee Morris, all of his name is within that symbol. Now, I have to say that this is not the first time that somebody has proposed something like that. If you look at George Hill Hodel as a Zodiac Killer suspect, the absolute most convincing thing that I heard from that was not from his son Steve Hodel, who has an entire book out on the subject. called Most Evil Part 2. No, it's actually from a school teacher in France named Yves Persson, who says that the solution to that symbol is actually a combination of 5 different Celtic letters. And one is like an H, an O, a D, E, and L. So it says Hodel, Zodiac, Killer. And that's what the Halloween card is. It's a signature and it reveals the identity of the Zodiac. One thing that David Gold would provide as a response to that, or a rebuttal, or just his own alternative that he has provided, because he doesn't mention Yves Persson, what he says is that it's not Hodel, it's Frank. Oh yeah, there are 5 letters, but it spells out Frank, and then you can see the almost like the points of the M, and he has this whole explanation. That's the best video I think that he did on the Zodiac Killer mystery, talking about deciphering that particular symbol, and it reveals Frank Lee Morris. All right, but I have to say, I didn't really find anything that I put forward super convincing at the point. There's another thing, though, with the Zodiac Halloween card. As I said, this David Gold theory is really about the symbols. And on the Halloween card, multiple times you will find the number 14. One of them is written out with the word teen. There's a 4, and then there's a teen. Teen, and then on the front of the Halloween card, I believe it's right by the skeleton's hand, and it says some things that there's the actual numbers 14, and remember the Zodiac Killer's talking about using the Halloween card to clue in people to his name, and this is the thing that could actually possibly reveal his identity. Let alone we had connect the dots, and that's what the Z13 was building up to. If this is all alleged, and this is not completely accepted by everyone, but just putting it out there. And the thing to say about that one is that the only thing that just really got me going and just thinking for the smallest possible minute that this could be true is that 14 ties into Frank Morris's prison records, because one time when he was incarcerated, he was given the prison number of 1441. His prison number began with the number 14. And how long was he sentenced for? 14 years. So you can see the 14s and David Gold. Not only does he speculate on this stuff, he also claims that these things were told to him definitively by Frank Morris because he knew him for an extended period of time in his life. And I believe even on the cover it says he interacted with him over a period of decades, 30 years or thereabouts. And there are other things that David Gold has said, that he's actually sat down with his Zodiac Killer suspect, Frank Morris, but bear in mind we are dealing with the group murder theory, and he walked him through about all the symbols and the meanings. And all of these things here are things that he told him about. And if you look at the Halloween card and you find the pumpkin that is on the skeleton, there's an individual out there named Kevin Robert Brooks who has his own idea about that, says that he's donning pumpkin breeches and his suspect is Donald Lee Booyak, and you open up the Halloween card and it says boo for Booyak, and that's Kevin Robert Brooks's interpretation of that. Now, the interesting thing is, though, David Gold says he actually sat down with this individual, Frank Morris, who relayed this information to him. And what he said was that the boo, that's just a Halloween boo. That's all it is. There's no significance of that. It's just a Halloween card boo. It's just meant to be spooky. I thought that was quite interesting for some guy who is just throwing all of these wild ideas out there, that he's like, that's all it is. The pumpkin is the big thing on the Halloween card, because according to David Gold, if I understand this, and as I said, the videos don't always seem 100% consistent, and maybe I've misstated something, but if I understand this, his allegation is that Frank Morris was impotent. And the only thing that he told him about that pumpkin is just that this is a private area, we don't talk about this area, meaning that Frank Morris was impotent. As he said, he knew the guy for 30 years. I've never talked to the guy. I do not know him face to face, so I'm just regurgitating things that I heard on YouTube videos. It's a good way to live your life. And that's just one of the explanations about why there is that pumpkin there. It actually reveals something that's tied to Frank Morris's impotence. But we should say, though, something about that, because a lot of people believe that the Zodiac Killer murders were committed because of animosity toward women, and perhaps someone had a bad relationship with their mother. And number one, with the deviations from the final patterns in the Moonlight murders and the Zodiac Killer murders, if I understand what David Gold has laid out about Frank Morris, is that the ambition for that one was really to show that it's not about killing women. Oh, it most definitely is, but the perpetrator does not want people to think that it is only about animosity toward women. Trying to present that image and trying to present that mindset to the general public and just saying that this is not about murdering women, this is about something else. I mean, if I understand what David Gold has conveyed, he thinks that it actually was about animosity toward women. But one thing that just came to mind recently, I was like, did I even hear this in one of his videos? It's something that is so blurry, just some kind of word just triggered something that just recently came back. And I was like, I believe he said, though, that Frank Morris's animosity toward women did not come from his mother. No, it actually came from a foster mother that he lived with growing up that beat him severely. And that is one of the driving forces for all of this life of crime and deviance and mischievous behavior. If this is all alleged, once again, the book is called My Dance with the Zodiac Killer. Now, if we're going to be talking about the clues in the comic books, we can't have any type of discussion about this without mentioning Tim Holt and the Wheel of Death. And that's the video that really pulled me back into following these David Gold segments, because he had one that was calling out an individual named Tahoe 27 who made the claim that this guy David Gold says that there's a red signature on the cover of the book, the Tim Holt comic book, talking about the Wheel of Death. And the thing that I found from David Gold first was he's saying he has never made the claim that there was a red signature. What he said was, on the cover of the Tim Holt comic book, and I would like to thank Morph, Zodiac Killer's site, for the graphic here, is that what the claim is that if you look at the people on the Tim Holt comic book, it looks almost as if they have some type of sunburn. What he said was there's a red hue. They have that red look. And he says that he has sat down with Frank Morris and he's walked him through all of these things. And he said, okay, the reason why there is this comic book is because it says by rope, by knife, by gun, by fire. This ties into the Halloween card. This is a clue to my identity. And then this is all of, this all coming in together about, as we said, you can decipher the symbol on the Halloween card by connecting the dots, which is available in the Z13, and that will reveal Frank Lee Morris being the central mind behind the Zodiac Killer mystery. But bear in mind, he would not have committed all of the murders. This is a group murder theory involving two other individuals, the Anglin brothers. So what we can say is, firstly, I found in a later video, just jumping around on YouTube, David Gold does address the signature on the front of the book. What he says is it's almost like a signature. And to be fair to him, that really isn't quite the same thing. So, I mean, if you do look at the cover of the Tim Holt comic book, and not all of the images of this Tim Holt comic book, The Wheel of Death, feature those red lines where it looks like, as we said, it looks almost like a signature. That doesn't mean that he is saying that there's some type of hidden meaning in there. What he also says is, though, if you open up the cover of this Tim Holt comic book, there is something, once again, that almost looks like a message written in red ink or some type of red underlay. And then you can kind of, maybe you think there's a message there, maybe you don't. But what he really wanted to say was that it has that red hue that Frank Morris told him about, that he said symbolized blood, or it made him think about blood. It made him, kind of the ideation of blood. And this could tie into some other things, such as bloodlust and all of those things. But that is something that has been revealed. But he really wanted to be clear. He does not say that there is a signature on the comic book. So when it comes to this theory, I have to say, number one, this is heavily based on hearsay from somebody who doesn't have any documentation that he actually knew Frank Morris. Someone was even saying that, multiple people have asked that in the comments section. Do you have any photos of this guy named Frank Morris? And he's like, no, I don't, because, some escaped convict who's on the run, who's just running around the world murdering people, he wouldn't let people take his photo. He definitely talks about this in not exactly a convincing way, but I would actually like to say something to the contrary. And this is the biggest culmination, conclusion, whatever you like to call it. And there's just something that we got to say about that. I'm going to accept that everything that David Gold is saying is accurate, that it happened, that he's not a liar. But the person that he was talking to was somebody who was just dealing with some type of schizophrenic delusion or some type of mental issue, and they weren't completely aware of everything that they're saying, because when he actually lays this stuff out, it comes across as please forgive my language, but the schizobabble of a madman when he's saying things to the effect of, okay, the person who wore the hood at Lake Berryessa, I only wore the hood once, but it wasn't me. It was Art. No, it was one of the Anglin brothers. And when he says Art, he's talking about Arthur Lee Allen, but it wasn't Arthur Lee Allen. It was one of the Anglin brothers. It's just the ideas are so mangled together, talking about how this event happened that, I mean, just as David Gold was telling that story online, it really came across that he is, as I said, schizobabble of a madman. And maybe he did know somebody that sat down with him and explained that to him about all of these different things in the comic books, and this is what this symbol means, and this is how you decipher this, and this is what I was thinking when I wrote this Halloween card, and all of this, and this is how my name is found in it. However, and this is a very big however, number one, that isn't certifiable proof. That's just what somebody else told him. Number two, perhaps that person was not completely aware of everything in his own mental state and put out some ideas that were very, very crazy, for lack of a better term. It's really difficult to try and say something like that in the most respectful way possible. But these are just some things about the David Gold theory. As I said, he has about 100 videos on YouTube, but many of them are about the Zodiac Killer and tying into some other things about D.B. Cooper and the escape from Alcatraz and the Texarkana Moonlight murders, as we said. But this is a variant of the group murder theory, saying that the murders committed by the Zodiac Killer in 1968 and 69 were done by multiple people, as well as this, they're having the individual named Frank Lee Morris, who was the mastermind of all of this. He is the central figure. He has left his signature in multiple places in the Zodiac Killer mystery. But what do you have to say about any of this here? Number one, do you think that it is possible in the slightest way that there could actually be connections between all of these things, the escape from Alcatraz, the Moonlight murders, D.B. Cooper, and the Zodiac Killer? Number two, do you believe anyone who says that they have some information coming forward saying that they knew the Zodiac Killer in the past? We even had something similar with Randy Kenny talking about how he knew Louis Myers and heard this deathbed confession, even though he has no recordings of it. What do you have to say about any of this material? If you have anything that you would like to contribute at all, please drop it in the comments section below. And I know that some people listen to this show here when they're driving. And if you have been listening to this while you're driving or walking around, I hope that you will have a chance to sit down and look at some of the images and really focus in on the graphics that we have here, because it'd be good to just see some of the images that David Gold was talking about and that I was relaying to David Gold. And I would love to learn more about this particular theory in the future, just to hear more about how this is presented and such. And maybe we can encounter some new pieces of information that we haven't talked about in this particular upload, and then that could be a future upload on the David Gold theory. But what do you have to say? Please drop your ideas in the comment section below. One more time, the book is called My Dance with the Zodiac Killer, available on Amazon.com by David W. Kuchar, also known as David Gold. And that's all for me now. If you like this upload, you can hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you're welcome to do so. But most importantly, drop some comments below so we can continue the discussion. See you on Instagram for the bonus podcast. Until next time.